So, give you a little bit of an update. I think last time we spoke was about July. So, roughly, we've got another quarter under our belt, but I'm sort of going to stretch back about 6 months now and just sort of give you a bit of an update. I came in as CEO in mid March, and then Julian came in as chairman in May. And so, since then, I think the focus has been very much in two areas, and one is rebuilding the technology pipeline and getting that onto the road and getting it into the MVP stage and also cleaning up. So this is about restructuring some of the business and making sure we can stem the cash burn and getting some governance and operational structures in place to be able to better manage the business. We've also seen in this time, just in the last few months, quite a few partnerships discussions begun. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but that's been a big highlight for us because this is around scale and how do we move fast in this market. The other thing we've put in place is a way to leverage government grants. So first of all, getting into the R&D tax incentives, so that application's well underway. And we're also looking at other grants that we can leverage or able to access, and that comes down to partnerships. So I'll touch on that. In the future, we've got a name change. I think we talked about that last time. So quite a bit of progress has been made on that, and we've applied to trademark a name that we've landed on. So hopefully that'll be revealed soon. And also just wanted to acknowledge Morgan's support. Thanks very much around the rights issue. That was really reassuring and really validating to understand what the market felt about our new direction and how we were playing out. So let me just talk about the technology pipeline. This is the part that I'm really excited about. So last time we did an update, we said Opal is the suite of technologies and methodologies that's using artificial intelligence, particularly machine learning, to find and investigate and identify deep insights that come from structured and unstructured data, particularly on social media, around patients. So we're trying to really understand the patient voice and the healthcare provider's voice on social media and make sense of that. The kind of clients we're talking to and working with already in this space are biopharma and medtech. But we did 5 pilot projects. So these were the first 5 pilot projects to come into Opal. One of the things that you need to understand about Opal is this is not just a technology opportunity, it's a methodology play as well. So this is where some of our intellectual property and know-how comes into play, which makes us really unique in the market. So I think last time we spoke, we were talking about medicinal cannabis as an example. And since then, we've completed 2 pilot projects and both of them revenue generating. It's early revenue and it's only really pilot revenue, but it's still revenue, which is important. But one of the clients that we've been working with is a federal government agency around a persistent health issue. It's a concern that's playing out with a lot of trolling on social media. So this agency really needed to understand the audience. What is it? What are the words? What are the concepts? What are the phrases that are triggering the audience to troll? And this could significantly affect the rollout of a new technology right around Australia. So it's a global issue, not just an Australian issue. They were interested to see what sort of methodologies and tools we could bring to this problem to help solve it in understanding what the audience thought, identifying the different types of audiences they had, and then what would be the social media content that is most likely to trigger the right response in this audience. So we've completed the project and delivered it to them. We also wrote for them an issues management plan, and this was around how they were going to deal with trolling. It's only going to get worse for this agency, and I have to say they're terrified. This is normal in the life and times of social media, so some of these organisations just simply have to get used to it. But there is a big part of this in really understanding what is the right content these agencies should be putting out onto social media to help influence, shift the public dialogue around a controversial issue so as that either piece of legislation, regulation or technology can roll out without perception getting in the way. So from that, we picked up another piece of work from this agency, which is really validating and that we're really excited about. And that is coming into the second part of ShareRoot, and that is developing the content. So the nice thing about this as an example is we entered into the space with an opportunity to use Opal as a technology and a methodology to solve a problem. Once the problem was solved and the solution identified, the second bite of the cherry came in the second part of our business, which is the older part of the business in the social science, and now we're developing the content based on the data we've got. So it's a nice, hand in glove sort of arrangement. No money's left on the table with this audience. The third bite of the cherry with this agency is ongoing monitoring and management, and that could be a retainer style revenue for them. So it's nice to see the idea validated again with another client. So the two clients we've just started, one of them is in oral immunotherapies, and it's trying to understand on a global scale what the market access strategy should be. It's a small company. They think they have a perceptual barrier with their product with a certain part of the audience. They need to identify it. Second part of that client might be creating the content and actually doing the development to roll out this product and help them identify who the prescribers are in the space and what their perception towards this particular problem might be. The next client we've started also in Opal is an interesting one. So it's a charity. So it's at the intersection of homelessness and mental health. And we're trying to identify young people on social media by their behaviours, I guess by a digital biomarker, to pick up when they're likely to leave home and then become at risk of homelessness. So the problem this organisation is trying to solve is, can we identify kids at risk on social media, particularly on Instagram? So each one of the problems we're trying to solve with Opal is unique. We need to think about how we're going to scale this and what can we automate out of this? What sort of methodologies can be laid down as a blueprint that can be used with other clients? So the 5 that we agreed to and the 5 that we've started with, we've completed 3. So that's pretty pleasing. I think we'll have the whole lot completed by November. And then from there, we'll do a reflection and understand, again, how we're going to scale that and how we're going to continue to improve it. Some of the thinking that we're putting into this is, what are the therapeutic areas we maybe want to specialise in? And maybe what are the problems that we're really good at solving, and what are the problems that are really difficult to solve in this space? So this comes down to the right client selection. With Opal, we've got a number of advisors that are now supporting us on the side. So I've got a global marketing manager from a major biopharma company that I recently met in the US on the East Coast, and also a local scientific company that's also a global company, and their global marketing manager has agreed to come in and just help us, I guess, shape our offer, make sure it's value-based pricing, not just time and materials pricing, but also giving us a bit of intelligence about how do we approach this market, what's our entry point, and how do we need to position the story to this market to be able to pick up the right clients at the right price. The other part of the technology pipeline is media consent. So this was the legacy technology that came from ShareRoot that I always felt had a really good application in the medical and clinical space. So what we tried to do over the past few months is find collaborators or potential partners in Australia that could give us access to R&D tax incentives and to start working with them. So you might recall that some of the development from media consent was being done in the US, and so we killed off all of that. Everything's now gone from that development team, and it's been brought back here to Melbourne. So we identified 2 academic organisations and 1 industry organisation that potentially were working in this space, and we could leverage their know-how and some of their technology and be able to get this to market fast. So I want to say speed in media consent. It's been hanging around a long time. I think we need to get into a beta stage and test it with some of our partners. So we have a CDA in place with one of the academic institutions and just working through that now. I think they're probably the best partner. The other one is looking at widget. So we've had a few challenges with widgets. So this was a technology that could be applied to Instagram, and it was an e-commerce solution. So Instagram's again changed some of the APIs, and this is a constant challenge with any of the big social media giants. And frankly, we just have to suck it up and be used to this. This is the way it's always going to be with these guys. So we need to be agile enough to be able to change pretty quickly and shift things around. So that's why we're using an agile stage gate method with all of our technology. We need to be able to sprint it, test it, kill it if it needs to be killed. So widget's in a position where it's still operational, it's still generating some revenue, but it's not fully offering the value that it should do because of Instagram. So for us, we're at a go, no go decision with Widget. We haven't put a lot of money into the investment of this technology. It's not generating a lot of revenue. It was an opportunity, but it's going to come to that point where we'll either say yes or no in the next few weeks. Ranked was one of the other technologies we had in the pipeline. It's still there. It's still parked. It's parked because we know it's going to take quite a bit of effort to get this up on the road. It's got an adoption hurdle it needs to clear. So at the moment, that's parked for the future. It's strategically not something we're looking at in the short term to be able to get easy wins or short-term wins. But something really interesting happened in the last few weeks. We saw a paper published by MIT, which was fascinating, and it was looking at a particular algorithm using AI, and it was around predicting clinical trial outcomes. So this was about giving a score or a confidence factor, looking at all of the data that is publicly available through the regulators and trying to predict the likelihood of a drug going through clinical trials and through a regulator. So suddenly there's been quite a bit of interest in this space, and we've decided to play ball. So this is with support of Damon Rashid, who's on our board, and we're looking at a model, and we've started to build a model that could enter into this space. We think the value of something like this would be to disrupt feasibility studies. And if this was automated, then that could significantly change the cost of clinical trials for some sponsors, and it certainly would disrupt the CRO and site space. We've got a few competitors already in this market, so it's companies like Medidata and Informa and IQVIA are playing pretty hard and fast here. But we've also seen a few small players, a bit like us, that are jumping to it. But we know that a lot of people are probably under the radar on this, that we're not going to see a lot of action in a public space. But it's these kind of opportunities as they arise. I like to think that we're pretty nimble in that we could look at the opportunity with a bit of expertise that we have, particularly in life sciences, and say yes or no, that could use an AI application or not. So we're exploring this at the moment, and I think this could be interesting. So from an operational perspective, we've ticked a few boxes. We've done the audit and annual report. We're looking at the name change. We're looking at a new governance framework that we want to put in place to ensure better management of our processes. Ludamade, we talked about that last time. So this was the game technology company that was acquired late last year. It doesn't fit to the strategy and it hasn't realised the value that we thought it would. So we've come to a single organisation or a single individual that we're looking to divest Ludamade to. In terms of costs, the one employee Ludamade had in the US has now been terminated, so we've reduced that expenditure completely. So from the end of October, that's no longer in play. Partnerships, as I mentioned, this is pretty critical. So I talked about media consent, but the other partnership we've looked at, I've been searching for an organisation that our services group could partner with to scale. So scaling any kind of service business is damn hard. And I think we'd all agree that there's not a whole lot can be done. You can increase the revenue and you can increase the clients, but you don't necessarily increase the profit. It's really tough in this space to actually grow the profit. So what we've decided to do is to look for a partner, particularly one that we would see as a competitor that could turn into a collaborator. And we looked in the UK first and Europe. So we've found an organisation that's about 7 times larger than us in terms of revenue. And they're servicing all of the clients that we want to service. When we first approached them, they really liked the fact that in the background we were developing technologies, not just methodologies and services. And so we had the profile that they wanted to partner with. So we have a CDA in place there, but it's very early stages, that sort of discussion. But I think that's the way to scale our services part of the business, is to partner with another like business. And it also gives us the opportunity to cross-sell some of our technology into that business under a white label or just simply sharing a client between us.